Welcome back to the Temple of Tomes. I'm your host, Indie Comics Jones, and this is probably your first time joining us because by the low amount of views I've got, anyway, here we go. First off, I really messed up on the last one. We were doing the Unkillables, part of the DCEASED 3 volume arc, and I mentioned that I mentioned the wrong artist, so I want to give them their due. If I can find it right in here somewhere. I never remember his first name. It's Mostert. I think I said it was Claire Rowe, and that was from Nebula. So I just spaced. I don't see it here, but you can see it down here. Mostert, and these two guys are pencilers both. Anyway, I'm really enjoying the series, as I'd mentioned before. It was funny because I looked at a few reviews of this after I did mine, and one person felt the same way I did, pretty much just loved it, thought Tom Taylor was great, doing a good job of writing. And then I think it was Wes, I can't think of the name of his show off. Sorry, I'm just blanking now. Wes did not care for it. And then I remember just yesterday hearing that, listening to some old podcasts that Zach Meyer had done. I just call him Zach Meyer. Comics Matter did that. He didn't care for Tom Taylor's writing. So we get a little bit mixed feedback on that, but I actually find this to be quite the exciting comic right now. I did make a mistake. I said Jason Todd was Nightwing, but he's actually Red Hood in there. But please excuse me, because in the first issue he is not wearing the red hood. He is walking around without it, and to me looked more like Nightwing in that outfit. But of course, on the cover here, I should have guessed. There he is, Red Hood. And this is pretty indicative of what happens in these issues. There's just all of a sudden there's these bursts of fighting. That's the first issue. Just against the villains, against the heroes, the villains against the zombies, the heroes against the zombies. In episode 2, or I should say issue 2, we get a little bit of a change of pace. There is some backstabbing and some trickery going on between the villains and the heroes. However, it's starting to get sorted out as their numbers start to dwindle a bit. And one of the high points in this comic is when Wonder Woman shows up, and you could just see them all pretty much kind of soil their jammies, so to speak, just the sight of her. So a lot of good story movement in this, so no pun intended. And one of the neat things about it is they don't just stay in one area. They are bouncing around from area to area. Like I mentioned, I got a little ahead of myself on the first issue. When I was talking about the first issue of this one, I had mentioned that they had found an orphanage, but that actually is revealed in the second issue. They just arrive at the orphanage, but they don't say what it is in the first issue. So I got a little ahead of myself on that one. So there's some hard choices to be made at that one. So excuse me on the artist screw up on that. I apologize for that. I'm very nervous doing these, and hopefully I'll get better at it. But time will tell. So one of the things I found in here, I did find this major error, and it just cracked me up. I'll see if I can show it to you right away. Here it is. Take a look at this. This has got to be either the skinniest woman right there, or someone screwed up. And I think what happened is the inker screwed up, one of the inkers. Maybe that's why they had two of them. And then the colorist didn't catch it. But if you look, it looks like part of her hand is right here, but it just colored the same color as the shirt. So otherwise she looks kind of like a really wide broomstick with a mop head on it there. But it's supposed to be Shiva, and you can see she is a full-sized person there, not a skinniest woman in the world. I don't think that's one of her attributes, is that she can shrink on. But you can kind of see that little ghosting hand there. I thought that was kind of funny. And that character there is Vandal Savage. So he's plays an important part in the first couple. I don't think he'll be around in the third, but you never know. Zombies are zombies, right? I don't want to give too much away, but I'm really enjoying this. One of the other things, I kind of touched about what makes a great comic, and one of the things I forgot to mention, and I'm sure there are others, but one of them is the character, or one or more of the characters, changes or learns something important that changes him in his canon for the rest of the run of his series. But there's some pretty good. One of the things I also was the Wes. I can't think of the name of his show. I'm just drawing a blank. I watch it all the time. Had mentioned that he didn't like the artwork in here, and I actually like it. I think what bothers me more is the colorist, because the colors are so muted and saturated and just kind of blah, and then. But he did do a decent job of trying to bring things in the foreground out rather than just making it all meld in the back. When I look at the background seemed pretty highly detailed. The rock work in the back there and everything. But the colors, of course, are kind of muted, so you can see stuff in the foreground more or less. But as you can see, like his character, he just kind of looks blasé. And he should be savage, not just bland. But anyway, it's got a good rogues gallery of villains in it. It's got all the heroes you can imagine. Really loving it. Looking forward to the third one. I believe this was a March release, and this one was February. I might be messing that up. So unfortunately, the final chapter was supposed to come out in April, and I'm assuming April. But of course, everything is slowed down right now. Hopefully, everybody's getting through. There's a nice little shot there. But you shouldn't worry too much, because that's Vandal Savage, and he's been alive, was it 50,000 years or so? I don't know. But let's see if we can kind of go back a little. I think so far, James Gordon is kind of the leader of both groups. He gets a lot of feedback, trying to not pick up this other stuff that's on here. But he seems to be the guy that's kind of calling the shots. He gets corrected a few times, so it's not just he's not completely taking over, because these are kind of varied personalities, and there are a lot of them in this. So very, very exciting. See, look at this. These rockets turning. They're just kind of bland. I think the colors and the art to me looks okay. The colors just aren't really popping for me. So I wish they'd do a little better job on that. And there's some of the kids at the orphanage. What's kind of cool too is, without really giving away too much of the story, is not only are there kids at this orphanage like these kids here, but there's also zombie kids in another portion that are kind of locked up. So their friends that they are living with have been inflicted by this virus as well. So it's not just all fun and games like you see here. One of the interesting things that does happen in here is the villains at first that do end up making it to the orphanage as well. These children start to endear them to the villains, and the villains actually reach out and try to teach them things. And I think that's going to be a major plot point as far as going forward, that they've got a stake in this now. So anyway, it was nice visiting with everybody here. I hope you guys get a chance to find some good comics. If you see some good comics, let me know. I really rather review good comics than bad comics. I know there's a number of sites that just review the worst comics, and they get a lot of views that way because they are pretty funny. But there's enough of that. I'm trying to find good ones to read. I can't read a lot during the week, and I don't want to spend my time reading not good comics. So I just feel like if there were more comics like this, the industry would be doing much, much better. It's not like tons and tons of dialogue, as you can see. So the pacing's good on it, moves right along. And I'll show you a little bit there. Mirror Master's a pretty cool guy. I actually kind of like him. I kind of toying with him. But I don't want to give too much away. But if you're interested, I definitely could recommend this for you. Anyway, I'm rambling now. So hopefully this is better than episode 2, because this is the end of episode 3. Thanks for joining. This is Indie Comics Jones for the Temple of Tomes. Have a good one.